Hey, I'm Damon here at Modern Music Studio in Centennial, Colorado, and today I'm going to show you how to play Angel from Montgomery, which is a song written by John Prine, great songwriter, and this was kind of popularized as well by Bonnie Raitt, so this is kind of the version we're going to do. Bonnie Raitt did it with a capo on the 2nd fret, and she's basically using kind of fingerstyle. D to G is your first chords, so you could kind of strum it like D, G like that. See, there's a little kind of going to the G note on the bottom string here. Kind of before you hit that G, gives it a little extra thing to it. So that's the intro, 4 times of D to G. You could also kind of finger pick it. You could look at your right hand fingers as each one kind of having a different string on that D chord. That way you can kind of arpeggiate the chord with your fingers and make it a little more exciting. You also have this note that you can always kind of hammer on part of that G chord there. And if you notice, I got both of these 3s down here in that G chord. That helps you kind of keep that 3, the 3rd fret there from the D chord going even when you transfer to the G chord. And if you look at her doing it on a live video, she's kind of using this one finger here. Now she's got other people in the band covering that bass note, so she doesn't necessarily have to do that. So she's kind of just doing kind of a little hammer on to that note to make it kind of fancy. So you got different ways of doing your D to G. Fingerstyle or just kind of strumming it. So 4 times of those 2 chords, then we're going to get in the first verse. That's going to be D to G 3 times, and then we're going to go A to D. And then that whole thing is going to repeat for the second half of that first verse. So we got D to G. And then A to D. You might kick that little note in there as a little filler before you start that second half of the verse. So here goes the second half. A to D again. Chorus, gonna go D to C, G to D. D to C. That D was a little earlier on that rodeo line. This one, the D is could kind of go early or on the beat. D to G, and then A to D. So that D goes right back into our D to G thing. So we'll do the D, C, G, D of the chorus into the D, G, A, D, and back to our initial D, G. So here goes that 3rd line of the chorus, the D, C, G, D. And then D, G, A, D. And then that D is like the first D right into G. You do that twice, now we have another verse. Got our A to D. Second half of the verse. A to D. Then we got our chorus, D, C, G, D. Now this time we're going D, G, C, D, back to G. So that last little part was D, G, and then C. And that's a little walk down to the what is kind of our 2nd fret here with this capo on. kind of like you're doing a C chord shape down to that sort of B, even though it's a C sharp in this case. Dun, dun, dun. It's kind of a walk down, but that's also part of this D chord here. So it's like a C, B, D, back to that G. So then we have a guitar solo, kind of real quick, just over this D, G twice. And if you look at it, this is kind of our D in this context, even though that's an E because of our capo, like I said. But if you're looking at this pentatonic major shape, that's kind of some of the notes that you could play to do a little solo there. And then if you look at the chord change, this is like, that's kind of the G note in this case. So these are that's the kind of thing we're dealing with. You got kind of notes from the major scale and stuff in there. So you could pick on some of those notes for the solo. Anyway, so twice these chords for the solo. Now we're going into the last verse, which changes to a D7 chord. It gets more bluesy. So you got your D7 to G7. Then we're going to go A7, back to D. Now we'll do the D7 again for the second half of the verse. A7 to D. And then last chorus. C, G to D. Same thing. But this one hits a little earlier on the D. See how that one hit later? Now we got our D to G. We're gonna hold that one for some singing. Then we're gonna hit an A7, which is gonna be like your A with the twos, but it has a 3 on the bottom there. We're gonna hit that A7, a little more vocal, and then we end on a D. I'm gonna throw kind of F sharp note up top here. Gives it a nice ring. Angel from Montgomery, the Bonnie Raitt version, written by John Prine. Come see us at Modern Music Studio. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.